How about that? So probably most of you who are not here for the first time know Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. Maybe you've seen him before. You probably know that he's an ordained interfaith, spiritual, and New Thought minister. And you probably know he's a certified holistic life coach and certified teacher of American Sign Language who founded a school of martial arts. What you might not know is a little bit more about him that I came to know. He's a man who at one time would never have expected or envisioned or intended to become a minister. Isn't it interesting how we don't know what you're doing sometimes? He studied martial arts intending to become wise and spiritual in the way that the Japanese mountain mystics who influenced the birth of ninja were sought out for their wise counsel. And yet he did become a minister. He says at first the intent of his ministerial studies was to have the ability to argue with traditional Christians, such as his older brother. And the more he learned and unlearned, the more he realized what spirituality meant for him in his own life. This opened a new vista for him, which revealed the call to become an ordained minister in both interfaith and in God. This spiritual path, I asked him about this spiritual path has afforded him many rewarding gifts, assisting others in awakening and remembering their own truth. About personally rewarding aspects, he says that this path allowed him to become free and happy as a daily default setting. I like that. Free and happy as a daily default setting. Every day, when asked, "How are you?" his reply is, "I am great. No matter what I feel, I am great." He says it is even more a blessing when what I am and what I feel are in alignment, which is most days. Please welcome Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson.
I'm bringing the books up here as if I'm going to read them, and I'm probably not, but just in case. So let's start with, how in the heaven are you?
Great.
Yes.
I like your dancing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, today we're talking about spiritual intelligence, or cultivating spiritual intelligence. It's a very interesting concept, and what we're going to talk about after that, after we go into the intro, is what does it mean to live based on wisdom? What does it mean to be wise? I warn you now, today is probably going to stir up more questions for you than give you answers, just so you know in advance. So, as Maxine mentioned, I studied martial arts for many years, right? So many years ago, I used to watch, and if anyone remembers this television show, feel free to high five, Kung Fu starring David Carradine. And, he would have those moments of flashbacks of when he was in the Shaolin Temple and stuff. And at one point, there's a quote, "You think wisdom is a flower to be plucked, when in truth, wisdom is a mountain that must be climbed." What? Huh? For years, wait a minute, my mind wouldn't grasp that, because there was a long process of thinking that wisdom had to be fought for and struggled for. And that's not what it's about. The mountain is merely an ascent, right? You're going from where you're normally at, ground consciousness, to ascending in higher levels of thinking, higher levels of being. Would you say, if I were to ask, and you don't have to, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, if I were to ask you, are you wise? Would you say yes?
Yes.
You don't have to answer. Don't put anybody on the spot. If I were to ask you, is wisdom something that can be measured quantitatively? Can it be, for example, love? People will say, well, I don't love you that much. Or Tracy and I, we were watching this episode of Relationship Boot Camp or something. Marriage Boot Camp. And it was Celebrity Marriage Boot Camp, and they had reality stars come on. And there was this one particular couple where the guy said, I can only love you this much.
Wrong.
You love me this much, but I can only love you that much.
Wrong.
And my mind, I went through, where do we get this concept that certain things are based upon quantity of? It has nothing to do with it. But there's this level of consciousness where we think that it does. It's how we're raised. It's how we're taught. Hallmark has made millions of dollars selling us greeting cards that convince us that love is, that family is, that relationships are, whatever, based upon this nice, pretty little card that has a poem in it, but it may not be based on truth. Would you say that the mind of God, source, the universe, the all that is wise? Yeah, that one's for you to answer. Tim said, of course. If no one else is wise, then of course God has to be wise. You do realize that the mind you use is the mind of God? So if God is wise, if God is wisdom itself, because there's a distinction. Because if you can be wise, then you can do something that's unwise. But if you are the thing itself, you can't not be wisdom. So if the mind that you're using is the same mind, then you have to be wise as well. You have to be wisdom itself as well. But are you acting from that? We have this thing called eyesight, correct? Vision. You do realize that your eyeball, your ability to see, only sees a spectrum of light between this frame and this frame. That there are spectrums of light that you cannot see, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Anybody in here have a dog? Have a dog whistle? There are spectrums of sound that our ears hear between here and here. Doesn't mean that what goes, the dog can hear it. Because you can't, does that mean it doesn't exist? No. There are spectrums of sound between here and here that our ears can measure and pick up, and we can identify. But what about what's beyond that bracket? It still exists. How do we tap into that? We use things like a dog whistle. We have tools and equipment to measure those ranges of sound, ranges of vision and light beyond that. Do you make use of the tools to give you access to the point of wisdom beyond the brackets that you call wisdom? What is wisdom? What does it mean to be wise? Because I love the fact that, doing the sign language thing, it always makes me think about words and linguistics. Because something as simple as the word run in English, depending on how and what the concept is, changes based upon the sign. For example, are you going to go for a run in the morning? Now the average sign is going to be run for that. But if I say, are you going to run for president? Would it still be that run? Same word, different concept. That then becomes this. Amy, you have a run in your stocking. This, or run, because it's a tear. My car won't run. Simple word, but depending on how it's being used, changes the meaning. Wisdom, being wise. If you can acknowledge that we believe and practice the things in this book, the things that Uncle Ernest diligently and patiently and fervently studied for as long as he did. And we trust what he discovered. But at some point, our trust of what's in the book has to become what we live as those words. That used to be one of my biggest complaints with traditional Christianity, which is why I used to want to argue diligently with my older brother, because he would say something, and I would say, what would Jesus do? That was always my response, because he would say something, and then turn around and do something, and then I would say, I think that's not in the Bible. Yeah, as a matter of fact, right there, what would Jesus do? I would always throw that at him, and he would get so angry because I was right. And I love being right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so, excuse me, Tracy. I'm giving the talk to you. So, at what point, and I used to wonder, at what point, as a Christian, Sunday morning, oh, I'm going to church, yes. You're in church, hallelujah. Church is done and you're on your way home. What are you doing? Not that finger though. That's right after church. And then Monday comes and you're fussing at work. You slapped your child. Tuesday, you slapped your other child. Kicked your cat. Wednesday, well, they're not going to miss this at work. I mean, they're not going to miss this. They have 7 of them already. What? So my question always became, when do you live what you preach?
Now.
That which is in this book, there is one mind, the mind of God. That's all there is. God is all there is. We see and perceive through this thing called flesh that there's me and you. Separation, right? But in truth, there's only one. I've said this before, for those who were here, it's review. Scientifically, let's play with the concept that God is water. H2O. God is the formula, H2O. Right? H2O shows up in various forms. H2O can show up as a liquid, a solid, or a gas. Are they different or only showing up in different forms? Their essence is still H2O. Let's go solid. Solid. There's sleet, there's hail, there's rain, there's snow. Let's go with snow. They say that snowflakes are individual. No two snowflakes are the same. That means what right now? Go out there right now in a 1 square foot space. I don't know how many snowflakes you're going to find, but they're all different. But their essence is still H2O. Every single one of us is a snowflake. Every single one of us, our essence, if you strip away the name, strip away the gender, strip away the job, the occupation, strip all of that away, what's left? The I am that I am. That's it. Wisdom is living that. Wisdom is tapping into that higher consciousness, that higher state, that true self, the Christ consciousness, your Buddha nature, living from that. So when I, the personality of Ray, goes to the store, I'm going not just as Ray, but I'm going as Christ. I'm getting a couple of deer in headlights looks, so let me back up a little. Those of you who know me know that I love superheroes, right? So let's go into the land of nerddom for a moment. Pack your bags. Are you familiar with someone by the name of Batman? Okay. Batman is not the real person. Bruce Wayne is. Bruce Wayne, through a series of circumstances, became Batman. Spider-Man, familiar? Spider-Man is not the real, true person. Peter Parker is. Gets bit by a radioactive spider, becomes Spider-Man. Familiar with Superman? Yes, no, no? Oh, okay. Superman is the real one. Clark Kent is the made-up one. Superman was born Superman. He was born Kal-El. He is that. He came here and became, put on the facade of mild-mannered Clark Kent. That's the fake him. That's his alter ego. Many of us are living that, thinking that is who we are, when in truth, we're super. We are what Yeshua said. When Yeshua said, God and I are one, and what I tell you about myself is the same for you. But how many of us, because we wrestle with that, especially if you have any past baggage with church and stuff. Oh, I'm not supposed to say I'm God. I'm not supposed to say that I am the I am. I'm not supposed to exalt myself to be equal with Jesus. And yet, Jesus himself said, I did these miracles, so can you. And even greater. But we don't access that. We don't step into that place of saying, yeah, that's the truth. Because when we do that, we can't help but to be wise. Now, you can talk about wisdom, because once again, it's going to be based upon your filter. Just like love. If I ask each and every one of you individually, what's your definition of love? What is love? What does it mean? As many of you as are in this room, there may be some similarities, but something's going to be different based upon how love feels to you. Especially if I ask you and you just got out of a relationship, love is going to mean something very different to you.
Family.
Family is going to mean something very different to you in that moment, depending on where you're coming from. Right? But love doesn't change. The love that you have for a family member is the exact same love that you have for your child, for your dog, for your car, for your creator, for your spouse, your mate, your lover, for whomever. Because love itself doesn't change. Because God is love. So that doesn't change. How you access, how you express it. Because, and I know, Amy's probably going to shoot me in the neck one day because I'm always picking on Amy. Amy, how many keys are on this? 88. How many different combinations of songs can you create with just those 88 keys? Infinite. Infinite. That's what love is. Love is, you have this constraint in this human body right now. There are bounds to it. Yes, that's my 88 keys. There aren't 89, there aren't 99, there are 88. That's my head to toe. But within that head to toe, 88 keys, what I can do with wisdom and love is without bounds. If I make use of it. If I never walk over there and sit down and tap a key, what song do I create? It stays in here. No one hears it. At some point, if my life, my existence is to shine, then I have to hit a key. If I'm really going to go out and do something with it, then I've got to hit more than one key. Because one does not a song make. Amy, did you hear the new song on iTunes? It's called Beep. That's all it is. That's it. It's only once, and it's 99 cents. Amy would do, and I'm hypothetical. Amy would say, Ray, stop it. Go sit down. Because that is not a song. Our life, our existence is to sing. And sing magnificently.
Don't forget dance.
And dance, because you gotta sing and dance. There's a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, and we're Facebook friends, so he's still my friend. He lives in California, and he has a son. He has 2 sons, actually. But he has a son that he drives to and from school, right? So on any given day, he'll film this conversation he and his son will have in the car. But on this one particular day, it's just him. And he's telling the story about how yesterday he went to a parent-teacher conference, and after they chatted about his son, the teacher said, oh, wait, I have to tell you this story. So yesterday, out on the playground, the kids were playing. And Isaiah was on the swing, and he's swinging and singing, and swinging and singing. And this other kid walks up and looks at him and stops, and walks over to him and says, Isaiah, you have to stop singing. And Isaiah kept swinging and singing, and swinging and singing. And the kids stomped their feet and said, Isaiah, I said, you have to stop singing. And Isaiah paused for a moment and said, no, I can't. My life is too beautiful for me to not sing. The boy is 3 years old, 4 years old. Wisdom out of the mouth of babes. Is your life so beautiful that you have to sing? That everything that you, and dance, and everything that you do is your song, your dance. Because if you wake up first thing in the morning and it's, I gotta go to work. If that's what you feel, don't go to work then. Because everything you do should be from that place of bliss. Because the energy that you, that's what you're sending out. You're putting that into the universe of, that's not a song that anybody wants to hear. So what do? Either change and start doing a job that when you wake up at 7 o'clock and your employer, unless it's you, says, I want you to wake up at 4 tomorrow and come on in. And when the employer says, I want you to come in at 4, you say, yes, because I get to go to work. I get to go to work and have fun for 2 extra hours. Yes, because I love what I do that much. Because if you don't love what you do, then do something different. That's wisdom. Wisdom is knowing if you are living your purpose and your passion. And if you're not, make some changes. It's time for you to start turning water into wine. It's time for you to start walking in rooms where people say, my daughter's dead. Hold on a second, let me go see. She's not dead, she's asleep. Come on out here, go play some hopscotch. It's time for you to start seeing beyond the illusion that everyone else in mass consciousness buys into. Because if you know that you are using the mind of God, then when you see funky snow falling, turn it into fun key. Because the key is having fun. What you put out is what you get back. Wisdom says, this is what I want to live. How do I do it? Wisdom says, this is what I want to feel. How do I do it? And wisdom says, I deserve it, so I'm going to do it. Period. And so it is.